the wedding was fun. The only thing that was a little annoying about it is that it was far away. It was at Villanova. Which is like I don't know how long the drive was, 3 hours or so from where I am. And so me and my other friend Brian were both co-best men, and we were both giving speeches. So nothing else in the night was really all that noteworthy. But when me and Brian gave the speeches, something happened that I was so fucking embarrassed over, man.
Really?
Oh, you have no idea how embarrassed I was.
I feel like you'd never give a fuck about anything.
That's true. And I am like public speaking is like one of the few things where I feel like I'm fine.
Yeah.
I could do it, no problem. But so I kind of prepared for the speech the same way I prepare for the show in a way. Like the way I prepare for the show, I always, whenever people ask me, I always say to them, I'm 40% scripted. So what that means is like I'll read the news articles and stuff, and like I'll give myself the first few lines of the story, and then I just put like bullet points.
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5 bullet points with the facts of the story that I need, and I could just riff based off that. So like 40% scripted. I did the same thing with the speech, put some bullets and stuff, and was like, this is what I'm going to talk about. And I knew going into it that like historically there have been -6 best man speeches that have ever been interesting. Nobody's ever done a best, like when was the last time any of you were at a wedding and you're sitting there having a conversation at your table and one person goes, I can't wait for that best man speech.
Yeah.
People are like, fuck this part. Why can we skip this part? Like this is
because they usually don't know the guy who's giving the speech.
They don't know the guy who's talking. The person who's usually talking is
telling just
horrendous at talking.
Yeah,
like that's the thing. I mean, I know I'm being kind of a dick here, but I mean, very few people are good at talking, like in terms of publicly. I mean, you get somebody one-on-one and they'll say whatever. Yeah, but publicly, like I was watching something on C-SPAN and it was like everybody who called in, it just took them forever to get their fucking point out, and when they did get their point out, it didn't make sense. And you go, fuck you, just say it, like spit it out and be straightforward. I know I'm being a dick because
no, you're right on that.
It's one of the few things that like I'm decent at, so like it's almost like I'm looking down at people like fuck you for not being good at it. But it's just I don't know, people for whatever reason, it's I don't know, people get nervous in public or whatever. But so I go up and I give my speech, and I start out good. I know this is corny, but I tried to make it like a little bit funny because I'm not a comedian, but like every once in a while on the show people say I make people laugh.
It's just natural sometimes with you.
Sometimes, yeah, just because I'm fucking around and like make fart noises or whatever. Like it just kind of happens. But I'm not. I know I'm not. Like that's not the point of my show, and I'm really not. I'm not all that naturally funny. I don't think. So, and it was working. Like my jokes got laughs. And by the way, comedians, man, that's a drug. Because comedians, like that feeling when the whole room, the fucking laughter hits you, you're like, oh, yes. It's like injecting heroin in your veins. Yeah. You're like, oh, laugh more at my jokes.
But it's probably the complete opposite when you're bombing and the room
is,
it's
like the scariest shit ever, I'm sure, yeah.
Well, you've heard comedians say that all the time. They're like, some of their biggest fears is just bombing in a room and the audience just being like completely silent.
Yeah, that's right. Because I know some of my lines didn't land. And like
you could feel it.
You feel it immediately. But what you have to do, and I know this from the show, thankfully, even though it's a little bit different, but I know that it's like you have to make it seem like you don't give a fuck that they didn't catch on to your vibe.
You got to commit to it.
I got to let them know, like, no, you got to hop on my vibe. Like, I'm going to lead the shit, and you got to hop on my vibe. So anyway, I'm giving the speech. I'm doing I think a decent job. And then I start crying.
Dead ass?
I started crying, dude.
What?
Because me and Will have been friends for a very long time.
Did something trigger the crying, or was it just like everything?
No, it wasn't like random. Like it was in line with the speech, I guess you could say.
So like you were talking about maybe a situation or some shit. Like I'm curious to how you started crying. Like
God, I don't know all the details because of course I'd been drinking.
Yeah, that could have contributed to your emotions.
Maybe, but I don't really think so because you'll see when I tell the end of the story, you'll
my bad.
See exactly what was going on in other people's minds. So like I guess it started out like funny. And I kept it funny, and then, I don't know, halfway through or so, it became a little bit more serious in the sense that I talk about what my friendship with him meant, and then at a certain point, I don't know, I said one thing and I started crying, and then, like a soldier, son, I kept going, and I apologized as I was doing it, and I finished, and then Brian gives the speech after me, and I felt bad that I stepped on his speech by doing that, right? But So then he gives his speech. He does a great job too.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, I'm so fucking embarrassed. Like, that's embarrassing. Like, a room full of people and you're like kind of crying as you're going along, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every person came up to me and was like, "That's the best speech I've ever heard in my life." That was amazing.
The shit was it was probably mad real.
And I was like, "Really?" Like, because the part, like, honestly, I thought the crying was, like, I thought it was too much. Like,
no, but some people cry and it is too much because that shit is just like, you could tell they're just crying because it's like a best, like, what is it? Best woman speech? What's
best
the
man,
opposite?
best woman, best, yeah, I guess best
Or
woman.
grooms?
No? Bridesmaid.
Bridesmaid.
Yeah.
We're
so
fucking idiots. There's a whole movie based on that.
thing where they talking the stuff.
But like everyone knows a bridesmaid's gonna cry. Like usually, like a guy will get up there and try and be gangster. Like if they saw you were crying, like, and you were probably killing it with the speech, they like real recognizes real. That shit was just real. They showed you love on it. And they probably genuinely
and
liked
I have
it.
to everybody who said like great job. Like I really thank them because if not, like I gotta be honest. Like even like 2 weeks after it happened,
Mm-hmm.
like I would be doing something and I would remember about the speech. I'd be like, fuck, I'm so embarrassed. Like I was still embarrassed. Like it's just embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know. But they kind of lessen that effect.
Are you usually emotional with like when it comes to shit?
That's a good question, man. I don't know. Like, I feel like there are times when I should have cried where I didn't cry, and like
at a movie or something?
No, like I know this is gonna sound. I know it's gonna sound fucked up, but like I don't know what it was, but like at my dad's funeral, I cried a little bit, but I was able. Actually, I'm lying. I cried during his eulogy. I gave a eulogy for him too, and I was crying. Yeah. But I mean, most of the time, I think, other than that, the eulogy, I think most of it I was able to keep it together. And there are times that
like that's a serious.
I mean,
shit.
obviously
Yeah.
that's really serious. I know.
Take it the opposite way, like on some real shit. I'll watch like Ellen DeGeneres, and so a kid will come out and like do some amazing shit, and I'll like fucking cry. Like,
okay, yeah, no,
you know what? I cry a lot.
Okay, now you're getting me to think about
I'll
it more.
fuck somebody up though. I gotta think.
No, there are times like I think there are. I don't think I'm like a big emotional guy or crier, but there are a few times like. I think there are some points, like, during a movie where you're supposed to cry where I'll cry.
Uh-huh.
Like, it'll be the part of the movie where you're like, I should cry here. And then you do. Like, it just happens.
Yeah.
But not, like, usually, I don't know, not really, like, romantic comedies. You know what I mean?
What about just, like, inspirational shit?
Inspirational
like in real
shit, yeah. Like, if there's somebody, you know, who, like, was in an accident and they're an athlete and they fight back.
Yeah,
like, when I see that,
I
start to, I get a lump in my throat. I'm like, you're doing it, man. You know?
Because it's like, I start thinking about extra shit, too. I'm like, this is, like, real life shit.
Yeah.
And then, like, the kid will speak or something. He's just like, I had a coach who told me, you know, boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, fuck, man, that's deep. Like, this coach, like, affected this dude's life. Like,
yeah. But although I must be clear, I am no John Boehner. John Boehner's the Speaker of the House. He cries like every 4 seconds.
Really?
Yeah, oh man. He did a 60 Minutes thing. They were talking about like taxes. He's like,
that's the dude who's all like tan and shit, right?
The guy who's like orange.